Here's your lesson and homework on factoring trinomials. So to warm up, to understand, if we have two binomials being multiplied together, I'm going to give you a little shortcut on this. So x times x is x squared. And then add the numbers you see. That's 6. And then multiply the numbers you see. And that's 5. That is called expanded form. This is called factored form, when this becomes a product. Let's try it again. First times first. Add the numbers you see, so -4 plus 6, and then multiply it together. Again, multiply, add them together, and then multiply. All right. Oh, a negative times a negative is positive. So, all of these today, you're going to be given expanded, and you got to work backwards and factor it. So to factor trinomial, you must find two integers that add to b and multiply to c. So what are two numbers that add to b and the same two numbers multiply to c? So what two integers multiply to 12 and the same two numbers add to 7? So 3 and 4, they add to 7, but they multiply to 12. Write two binomials using these numbers. So that would be positive 3, x, and positive 4. These are equal to each other. This is the work we're doing today. All right, to do this, we're going to organize it. We're going to draw a little x and put the large number, the n number, on top, and the b value, the number in the middle, on the bottom. And then we're going to think what two numbers multiply to 20 and the same two numbers add to 9. For some of you, you might go, okay, 1 times 20. That doesn't work because it doesn't add to 9. 2 and 10. They multiply. They don't add. And then 4 and 5. They multiply to 20, and those two numbers work. So that is a winner right there. If you can't think of that in your head, then we write down each factor. I got this. Until you find it works. And then there you go. So we have positive 4 and positive 5 with n. And it's factored. Let's try it again with 18. So we have 18 and 9. And we're thinking two numbers that multiply to 18. So is it 1 times 18? Doesn't add to 9. Is it 2 times 9? Where's 2 more? What's another pair? So it's 3 times 6. They add to 9. They multiply to 18. And then we have w plus that and w plus the other one. That's it. We have 24 and 10. So what are the two numbers that multiply to 24? And the same two numbers add to 10. So those two numbers are 6 and 4. Order doesn't matter. So it's the letter plus 6. It's the letter plus 4. Two numbers that multiply to 1 and the same two numbers add to 2. Well, there's only two numbers that multiply to 1 and they do add to 2. Now for this one, it's plus 1 and plus 1. But I want us to practice plus 1 with an exponent 2. So there's two of them. This is what I want you to look at. Do you see that fly on my nose? All right, 2. There's two of them trying to get me. All right, so what happens when this number is negative? So I'm going to tell you. When that number is negative, you are going to subtract. Did I spell it right? Subtract instead of add the two numbers. So what are two numbers that multiply to 18 and the same two numbers subtract to 3? So those two numbers are 6 and 3. They subtract. Then when the larger number is positive, so when this number here is positive, the larger number is positive and the smaller number is negative. So 6 times -3, 6 take away 3, it all fits. So we have n plus 6 and n subtract 3. There it is. Again, when that's negative, you're subtracting. So what two numbers subtract to 2 but multiply to 8? So 4 times 2 is 8, and they subtract. When this is positive, the larger number is going to be positive, and the smaller number is going to be negative. And so it's plus 4, subtract 2. Again, we're subtracting. What two numbers multiply to 6? And the same two numbers subtract to 1. There's my friend. So that's 3 and negative 2. You have to know your times tables. 45. What are two numbers that multiply to 45? And the same two numbers subtract to 4. So 9 times negative 5 and 9 take away 5 equals 4. It fits. C plus 9, C take away 5. Turn the page. So again, we're subtracting, but this time the middle number is negative. So the bigger number is going to be negative and the smaller number is going to be positive. So we have negative 3 and negative 2. Again, we're subtracting. So the two numbers that subtract to 2 and multiply to 3 are 3 and 1. But this time the bigger number is going to be negative because it's negative underneath. So that's A subtract 3 and A plus 1. This way it fits. Same style here. So what two numbers subtract? And then the bigger number is going to be negative for it to fit. So two numbers that multiply to 63. The same two numbers subtract to 2. What are the two numbers that fit? So that's 9 and 7. And because this number is negative, the bigger number is going to be negative, so they do add up to negative 2. So then we subtract 9 and add 7. All right, negative 64 and negative 12. They subtract. This one's a little trickier. It's going to be, isn't it? What two numbers multiply to 64 and subtract to 12? I was thinking 15 and 4, but that doesn't work. 12 and 5 don't work. 10? No. 16 and 4. I found it. So 16 times 4 there, and they subtract, and the bigger number is going to be negative. That was I had to think about it. All right, last set here. So we're adding, so it's positive, but yet it's negative. So that means both numbers are going to be negative, but we're adding them. So we have 24 and negative 11. Because it's positive, we're adding the two numbers. So 8 plus 3 is 11, and they multiply to 24. But because 11 is negative, both numbers are going to be negative for it to fit. So negative 8 and negative 3. That adds up to negative 11, and they multiply to 24. See this pattern here? So both numbers are going to be negative. So what are they? Negative 7 and negative 7. They add to negative 14, and they multiply to 49. Now, what's the other way we could write this? Is squared, right? So you could put it beside, or you could also write it squared. 72. Press pause. Try it first. Can you find the two numbers that fit? So two numbers that multiply to 72, and the same two numbers add to 17. So they're both going to be negative. That's negative 9 and negative 8. Again, they're both going to be negative. That's negative 10 and negative 5. And now we have mixed practice to see, like, which one do I pick when I do this? So the first thing I recognize is that last number is negative. So I'm subtracting. So what two numbers subtract to 6 multiply to 16? So that's 8 and 2. Because 6 is positive, the bigger number is positive and the smaller number is negative. So we have plus 8 and minus 2. Here again, because it's negative, we're subtracting. So what two numbers multiply to 72 and subtract to 14? What would that be? So it's not 12 and 7. Oh, it's 18 and 4. That was a tricky one. And this one's negative 18. I had to think about that one. Try to keep the numbers a little smaller. All right, positive and positive. So everything's adding. So what two numbers add to 13 and the same two numbers multiply to 40? So start with multiplying. And it's not 10 times 4 or 2 times 20. So the two numbers that fit here, and you have to know your times tables, is 8 times 5. They multiply to 40, add to 13. Here we have a positive and a negative. So that means we are adding, but both numbers are negative. So negative 12 times negative 4 is 48, and they add up to negative 16 and 5. All right, press pause, see if you can try these. So two numbers that multiply to negative 30, and we're going to subtract to 1. And because 1 is negative, the bigger number is negative. So we have negative 6 and positive 5. Two numbers that multiply to 42, and they add to 13, and both numbers are positive. So you have positive 6 and positive 7. Here is an example where you have to do the greatest common factor first and then factor the way we're factoring. So look at all three numbers. What number goes into all three evenly? And then divide. Oops. And then what's inside the parentheses? You have 2 and 3. So what two numbers multiply to 2? And the same two numbers add to 3. So 1 times 2 is 2. And they add up to 3. So we have a 4, and then k plus 1, k plus 2. Okay, what do they all have in common? 2 goes into all of them evenly. Divide. Just inside the parentheses, we're subtracting two numbers that multiply to 12. And the same two numbers subtract. So it's going to be negative 6 and positive 2. They multiply to negative 12 and they add to negative 4. Again, we're going to divide out the greatest common factor. So divide out 3. So 3 goes into everything evenly. I'm dividing right now. Because 4 is positive, we're adding. Because 5 is negative, both numbers are negative. So I have a 3, and then I have a negative 1 and a negative 4. All right, factor out a 3, divide it out. Oh, and an a. Ooh. So take the smallest a, the least a, and then divide. So we have 21 and 10. What two numbers multiply to 21? Same two numbers add to 10. Again, what do they all have in common? What number goes into all of them evenly? Then divide. Then I need to know two numbers that multiply to 6. And the same two numbers add to 5. So that's 2 and 3. So that's b plus 2, b plus 3. All right, no multivariable. Let's see, is that it? That's it. Mr. G Math. Over and out. I'm proud of you for sticking through this lesson. I'm going to do a separate video for the homework. But there is practicing with the lesson.